Hey guys, it's Coach Ransom here, and I'm going to be showing you how I play electric football. I represent the Fox 12 Conference in the Gridiron Campus Miniature Football League. This video isn't intended to be the prettiest video, as I'm not going to make any edits or anything. I'm just going to basically record live and then post it on YouTube as soon as I'm done recording this. So this might not be the prettiest video, but it's going to be informative. So let's get started. Some rule differences that I have from normal electric football. Well, let's start off by saying I play with normal electric football rules, the normal standard rules, but I have some differences. For instance, each college football team, and I have 12 of them, 6 currently have been made, have 4 star players, 2 on offense and 2 on defense. And for this video, I just got finished painting and tweaking the Auburn Tigers, the all-time Auburn Tigers, so I'm going to be using them. So anyway, each team has 2 stars on offense, 2 stars on defense. Auburn has Bo Jackson and Cam Newton on offense, and on defense they have Tracy Rocker and Nick Fairley. These star players have advantages over normal players that make them able to succeed easier than the other players. So let's go through some of the rules. A star player on offense, once per play, can stop and pivot. No one else can do this. So if I'm running with Bo Jackson, I can stop and pivot him another way once per play. If I stop to pivot Bo Jackson, I can also pivot my other offensive star player. So Cam Newton can also pivot if I want him to. The defense can react to the pivot. So once I'm done pivoting my offensive players, the star players on defense can then pivot. So the offense would pivot first, and the star defensive players can react and pivot based on what the offensive does. Tackling. If it's a non-star player, any touch is a tackle. So it could be here's a tackle, any base touch is a tackle. But to tackle a star player, you have to tackle him with your base, front of the base on his front of the base, or you have to stop his momentum and either make him stop moving forward or make him move backwards or change direction. If the star offensive player is an offensive lineman, he can move while engaged. And another thing is, normally if a receiver is engaged, he cannot be thrown to. But let's say Bo Jackson's coming out the flat and Cam Newton finds him. If a normal defensive player, let's just get a linebacker, is engaging him, he still can be thrown to because he is a star player. That's another advantage that star players have. Let's see. The defense can also stop and pivot if they want to, and once they pivot, the offense can then react based on them. So whoever stops and pivot, the other side of the ball can react based on what the first phase does. A defensive player can be engaged and pivot. So let's say he's getting blocked by an offensive lineman. Let me get an offensive lineman. He can still pivot. Oops, sorry, my camera wasn't on there. He can still pivot even though he is engaged. If there's a star offensive player and a star defensive player, so remember how the tackling rule was it has to stop momentum? If a star defensive player touches a star offensive player, there's a dice roll to see if it's a tackle or not. Because normally on a star offensive player, remember, you have to either front base tackle or stop his momentum or make him move backwards. But since it's a star defensive player, he can touch him anywhere, and it could be a tackle. Roll a 20-sided die. If it's 1 to 10, there's no tackle, and it's a broken tackle for the offensive player. If it's an 11 to 20, the defense gets the tackle. If there is so let's just say, a defensive tackle would not be covering a running back. But remember, I also said how you can throw to a star offensive player if he is engaged. If he is engaged by a star defensive player, you have to roll a die. If it's a 1 to a 10, you can still throw to him. If it's an 11 to 20, you cannot throw to him. Because this is college football, if one corner of the base is out of bounds, you can still throw to him because in college football you only need 1 foot in bounds, not 2. So that's something that I added a little bit. Also, the overtime, or like college football overtime rule, and after a catch, so let's say I complete a pass to Bo Jackson, all unengaged defensive players can pivot. Doesn't have to be a star player. And same thing after a pitch. That's just normal electric football rules. So I went through these. Let's go through some of these. The The quarterback cannot change his base after a handoff or an option handoff, because to go from a from a non-stationary to a stationary base, or from a stationary to a non-stationary base for a quarterback, for a star quarterback, that counts as his pivot. So you cannot. What I thought of is it would kind of be unfair if after a handoff I change the base by using my quarterback's pivot. That would allow my running back to get an extra pivot, and that's not fair. If that makes sense. If one star is on a stationary base, he cannot use the pivot, so the other star only has one pivot. That again is leveling the playing field. An option base switch. So I would have a stationary base for Cam Newton, right? And let's say there's an option, so like Bo Jackson would run across. I can either choose the run of Cam or Bo. If I run of Cam, I would have to switch it to his normal base, and that counts as a pivot. And if a pass is completed, the quarterback cannot change his base. I have an injury chart right here. It's really complicated. Basically though, a star, the reason there's a difference between a star injury and a normal injury. Here's the chart, right? But if a star player gets injured, during this season, if he gets hurt, they can use a star injury rule. Once per year, you can negate any injury used. For example, star inside linebacker for Texas A&M, Dat Nguyen, used the star injury rule. I forgot what happened. I think he was out for the season with a knee injury, but because he's a star, he toughened up and is playing through the injury right now and has no restrictions. But if a star player does get hurt and they don't use their injury rule, or they already have used it, so he must be hurt, they lose every single advantage they have from being a star player. So here you can see is the chart, and if a player falls over, that means he's injured, and I have to roll to see if he is injured or not. So 1 to 19 is no injury if he falls over, a 20 is an injury, and then I roll for the length. If there's an injured kicker, what I have to do, I have a kicking chart for each individual kicker for each team, which I'll show you soon. You subtract 15 from the dice roll. That makes sense a little later. If the defense is playing man-to-man and the offense motions, then the defense can match the man-to-man. So if a player is injured, what happens is you remove their base. He still plays in the game, but you take his base off, so he basically cannot move. He can't pivot during stoppages, he can't run the ball, he can't be thrown to, and if the injured player is a defender and then the opposing receiver on the team is engaged, then the receiver can be thrown to even if he is engaged. No injured player can tackle either, so if you're injured, you can't really do that much. And if you're an injured quarterback and you complete a pass, you have to roll a die. If you roll a 1 to 15, it's incomplete. If it's a 16 to 20, it's a complete. A star quarterback can throw while being engaged by his offensive lineman, but a non-star quarterback cannot. I made this rule up also. If a corner is playing man-to-man, because I know what the plays are because it's solitaire, right? So if a corner, let me get a cornerback, is playing man-to-man on a receiver. So let's get Karsten Bailey out here. Where is he? Let's say he's running a slant, right? I can't pivot my cornerback like this because I already know the play. I have to keep him straight on. But let's say this cornerback was a star cornerback. I could be able to play man-on-man like this because he's a star player and he has advantages. Each team has one lateral per game. The fumble rule. If you fall over and you're carrying the ball, you also fumbled. You have a chance of getting injured and you fumble. If it's a non-star player, here's the chart. If you fall down without contact, 1 to 10, no fumble. 11 to 20, you do fumble. If you get hit and you fall down, you fumble no matter what. Now, if a star player falls down with the ball, 1 to 15, he does not fumble. 16 to 20, he does fumble. But if he gets hit and he falls down, it's 1 to 5, no fumble. 6 to 20, fumble. All unengaged or engaged stars can pivot. So let's say there's a fumble, right? Let's say Bo Jackson fumbles. I drop the ball, and that's where it lands. All unengaged players or engaged stars can pivot toward the ball, and if you pick it up, so obviously you get the ball. Let's see. Oh, star quarterbacks have a rule too. Twice a half, they can redo a pass. So let's say I have a man wide open here, and I miss him with the TTQB. Right? I can do a redo and rethrow that pass twice to half because Cam Newton is a star quarterback. Now, if I were to throw an interception, I could not redo that. The only time I can redo it is if it's an incompletion. As I already stated, they can switch the base, mobile, and stationary. If a field goal is missed, I roll a die. If it's a 1-2, you can return the missed field goal. If it's a 3-20, there's no return. For a kick return, for a kickoff, 16-20 is a touchback. 1-15 is you can return. If a star defensive player is being blocked by a star offensive player, the star defensive player has to roll to pivot. 1-10, he cannot pivot. 11-20, he can pivot. And if a star wide receiver is getting covered by a star cornerback, he has to roll a die. 1-10, he can pivot. So let's say he's running a slant route, but 11-20, he cannot pivot because the defensive player is playing such tight defense. Let me pull up some. Well, first, so in the West Division of the Fox 12, I have all these teams made: Notre Dame, Michigan, Baylor, Texas A&M, Auburn, and Oregon. In the East Division, these teams are wrong. I had to change some of my teams up. I have not made any of these yet, but I have them in that brown box right there, and I'm about to make them. I have Clemson, South Carolina, Florida, Boston College, Navy, and Georgia Tech. So far, I've played a couple games. Notre Dame went into Oregon and won. Let me... Sorry for the lack of editing, but I have all my games in this notebook right here. Well, let's start off. Michigan went into Oregon and won the first game of the year 21-20 in a thriller. You can check out all of these games in the link that I have in the comment, mfca.org. I also have a statistical spreadsheet I'll be posting on that website soon. I've been entering all the stats from the games. The next game, Texas A&M went into Notre Dame and knocked off the Irish in a stunner in double overtime, 34-31. Johnny Manziel was great that game. Then the game after that, Baylor went into the College Station, and beat the Aggies 22-10. Robert Griffin III so far is the MVP of the Western Division of the Fox 12. He just did amazing. And then Notre Dame beat Oregon in Oregon 24-21. And those are the games I played so far. So Notre Dame is 1-1, Michigan is 1-0, Oregon's 0-2, Baylor's 1-0, Texas A&M is 1-1, and Auburn is about to play Michigan today. But let's see. Let's go through some of the playbooks. Each team has an offense and defensive playbook that I create. So as you can see, here's Michigan's offensive playbook. I have the stars right here, so like Tom Harmon, Desmond Howard are the stars. And for each scenario, there's certain die rolls that you can do, and it says what play to run. And each offense can use 1 Hail Mary, 1 kneel, and 1 spike per half. Oh, I forgot to mention, 10 plays per quarter, and if you call a timeout, you add an extra play to that certain quarter. That's how I play. That's how I use time in my games. For kicking, what I do, I go to ESPN.com, I search up the kicker, and it has like their percentage that they made from a certain amount of range. So like if the kick is 1 to 19 yards away, it shows the percentage that kicker made from that distance. Same thing from 20 to 29, 30 to 39, and 40 to 49 yards. What I do then is I find that percentage and I find what number that. So let's say, all right, this is confusing, but let's say random kicker is 50% accurate from kicks that are 30 to 39 yards long. What I would do, since I have a 20-sided die, is find 50% of 20, which is 10. Thus, if he were to kick from 30 to 39 yards away, if I rolled a 1 to 10, he would make it. Anything else, he'd miss it. So each kicker is individualized. And the longest, so like his longest is 47, but the Oregon's longest is a 59 because he hit a 59-yarder while at Oregon. So each kicker is individualized. So yeah, also have a defensive playbook, and the defense can match if the offense is a Hail Mary, kneel or spike, the defense has a kneel and spike defense and a Hail Mary defense. So each team has their own unique playbook. Like Oregon has a ton of triple options, and they have an athlete in their lineup. Not like most teams just have running backs, fullbacks, receivers. They have an athlete because Chip Kelly is their coach, and he has a bunch of crazy cool triple option stuff from the spread offense. Mel Renfro's their athlete, if I am correct. But yeah, I just finished doing Auburn's playbook right here. A lot of Cam Newton runs, Bo Jackson runs, yeah. So this video isn't the prettiest. I apologize for that. There's going to be no editing. I just wanted to show you what it was like in the raw. And I probably today will start the Michigan-Auburn game. And, oh, I have one more rule. Completely forgot about. The home advantage rule. College football is all about home advantage. Once per half, the home team, before the play, can make a pivot or advance pivot. So they could, like, turn a player this way or motion someone on offense or on defense, and the away team cannot match that motion or advance pivot. That's because it's so loud, they won't be able to communicate with each other and react to what the home team does. So yeah, that adds a little flair to it. But Auburn is going to go into the Big House today or tomorrow, and yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Thank you for watching, and subscribe if you want. Check out all my electric football stuff, not just my stuff. The league I am in by Coach Dre, the Gridiron Campus Miniature Football League on MCA.org, and I'll see you later. Thank you.